Hey guys, Darren Elias here. In this video, we're going to look through a recent online 10K Super Millions final table, looking at some hands from four-handed action that tournament I was actually able to win, and thinking about ICM implications here, and really considering how we adjust to playing for big pay jumps and playing versus different stacks, the relationship between small stacks, big stacks, how this affects our strategy, and brought on Nick here to really break down the ICM implications and the nuances to this strategy when we're playing short-handed poker with big pay jumps for a lot of money. And I think this will be pretty valuable. Hope you guys stick around after the video. I'm going to be doing a preview, a little walkthrough of my upcoming course, Road to Victory. So hope you enjoy the video and stick around.
Now we move on to the next hand. You have a very standard open here.
Yeah, and I'm glad we have the ICM Lord in the building here because Nicholas kind of facing a tough one. This is like a 23 big blind shove from the small blind. I'll let you kind of pause and look at the other stacks here. I don't know if you just think this is an easy fold. I think ace queen would be a call. Ace 10 off would be a fold, so this seems close in my book.
It's one of those spots where your hand's going to be like equity-wise, it's probably going to be doing pretty well, but you are in a nice spot. Good, solid second place situation where gambling here versus that 20, what is it? It's like 22 BBs.
Yeah, maybe a little more.
With you behind also with 30. If he loses that all in, he's going to go to 4, put himself in third. Enrico's going to move into second. And it's probably just spot where, of course, you beat a lot of the shoving range. The shoving range will have a bunch of suited broadways.
Ace X.
I think one of the things when we go back and when we think about a spot like this, it's really important to understand you not just look at it as, button off 30 opens, small blind jams 20. You're not a normal button open range there with the small ante, the online payouts, and being in second to last, but covering Enrico by quite a bit, where it's really nice for you to fold and let Enrico play pots first. Nicholas, when he's covered, you'll just, your EV of fold is not zero there like it is normally. You're making money by folding because you're going to let that shorter stack battle against the covering stack. And obviously he's going to bust. He's not going to bust 0% of the time. There's going to be some time when he busts or he plays a big pot and loses. So, and also you're building a range that is tighter just because you're opening into a stack that covers you by almost 2 times as much. You're tighter because you don't want to have a lot of raise folds, comparatively speaking, 2 chips versus Enrico's 22 BBs. And there's a smaller ante than normal. And they're online versus if we were playing in like PokerGo or My Tritons or anything like this. Typically, as we can see, the pay jumps are a little bit more shallow. So once you have all these factors, it's going to make your button open quite tight. And that means that Enrico's not going to be shoving as if he would versus a normal 30 BB open. So I think his range shrinks a little bit. And Nicholas just has like the one that's right on the line there. But in my opinion, just a fold.
And like you were saying, this is something I always like to do when thinking about playing big all-in pots at final tables. Consider the possible outcomes and what it does for you. So like you said, when you lose, you're now down in third, Enrico's in second. You basically switch stacks. When you win, I mean, it's bad when you lose. When you win, it's not like you're clear chip leader and able to take over the tournament and are now in a very, very good spot. Then you're just kind of like even with Ami, and you're still 2 of 3. And it's not like things have really changed a ton for you or winning this pot changes your position dramatically. Nicholas already in a pretty good spot here, 2 of 4, and kind of deems this an unnecessary risk to play this all-in pot here.
Yeah, the last thing I would say is we want to always consider pay jumps as a percentage increase on the payout, right? One thing that happens all the time in the online tournaments is that it's typically around 30%. So, 30% of 205 is the next jump, which goes to 266, and then another 30, which, 30% of 266 brings us up to about 346, and then another 30 in that last one where it's about 100K pay jump. So the 30, 30, 30 thing is something we only see in online tournaments. They just play a way more shallow payout structure. So it's very different than comparing like the tournaments that we'll see later in the section that we played at USPO, or if a lot of our guys watching this are playing big live events that play 1 BB ante and have a little bit more top heavy structures in the final 3 or final 4. The spots like this particularly are going to be really different. Call off ranges in every spot are very different in these spots, and it changes what chip leaders can do in terms of exerting pressure on mid stacks because it makes it so that mid stacks don't have that incentive to gamble as much as they do with the more top heavy payouts, just because for you in this spot, when it's 30, 30, 30, and you're pretty significantly behind the top two stacks, like Ami obviously covers you by 2.7x or whatever. I'm just looking at these quickly. And then Nicholas by almost two. When that's the situation and you've got a guy that's in last, think about what you're doing. I know this isn't the spot we're talking about Nicholas gambling, but for you to put yourself in a spot where you're going to, let's call it like just gamble, like let's say Nicholas rejammed what your call off on the button would be. In this situation, compared to a top heavy situation with one BB ante or whatever in a live tournament, you're going to be way tighter because it's not that appealing for you to try to gamble and then put yourself in a situation where you remain a mid stack. You kind of got to be snug versus Ami. If you lose, obviously you're out, and Enrico sneaks into that third place. And we're talking about a 60K pay jump and then another 80. So you're just trying to really get that extra 60K right now. That's a big part of your strategy with these online tournaments, which I think it's important to make that distinguishment. And maybe people don't think about it enough, how much it shifts to strategies. So with all that going on, I would just say that was a long way of saying you're going to be tight on the button. Enrico's shoving range should be a little bit tighter because of that. And then Nicholas, again, he's kind of already in a nice spot where he's going to get heads up a decent amount. And he's probably not looking to just like play knockout poker here and try to gamble versus Enrico.
Yeah, and big takeaway there when it is more top heavy to kind of take more chances. And in spots like this with the 30, 30, 30, shallower, flatter payout, whatever you want to call it, you are less likely to make these quote unquote gambly call offs or get ins.
Yeah, especially if you're in your situation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these spots for Nicholas I would keep an eye on are supposed to be very normal on the button when he's got a big stack in the small blind. And he's so Ami, I think I would still just put this one into a shove. How many blinds do you have there?
Looks like 15-ish.
7. Yeah. I think he's got the big stack. He gets to put the money in first. You have to still call off tight in this structure for all those reasons we keep reiterating. So I think I would just put that in as him. For you, I'm not going to get fancy slow playing a low suited ace. I think I would just be jamming the low pairs, low suited aces, every offsuit ace probably, maybe, or technically you're supposed to put in some flats with middling ones, but not really too worried about doing that because I think as we can see here, every opponent that you play against, even if they're very good, their combo use is just going to vary in games so much because these spots are hard to figure out right away.
Yeah.
So like the more he starts raising hands that he should shove, the more you kind of just want to shut all these different hands out and not be so specific as to what you should be like, quote unquote, slow playing pre-flop. In these spots, you basically just can't go wrong shoving a good hand versus somebody that might be. The big concept here is just like, are they missing shoves and still hitting like this aggressive chip leader frequency from the small?
Yeah, just using different strategies instead of the shove, but still playing that wide range aggressively.
Exactly. So if that's ever the case, then you gotta get really aggressive.
I don't doubt that I'd probably end up putting this one in. It is interesting. I mean, I can tell you for free, I would have called off here with ace-3 suited versus the shove. Is that going to be too loose with this payout and ICM dynamics? Ace-3 suited, ace-2 suited?
No.
And kind of offsuit aces, ace-5 off calling, somewhere around there, I would guess. Can we call off ace-2 offsuit in a spot like that for 15?
With these half ante payouts, probably not. Ace-2. I mean, like the less handedness there is, the less ICM. This is probably supposed to shove.
That's my first thought. Yeah, I would guess this is probably another one that gets, I would say, raise folding here. Probably not a big mistake, but shows you the dynamic at work where versus this shove with king queen offsuit, my life is not good, but versus an open, I have kind of a slam dunk shove.
I think with your 15 spot there, you would have been right around ace-3, ace-4, every suited ace, pocket threes.
Okay. I feel good about that.
King 10, queen 10 type stuff for calling a jam. This seems to me to be a little bit of what does he have there? He's got 8 million. Yeah, good decision by you. I think he probably wants to be all in on the button with those ace-X.
I would agree. And you kind of see why that's a good play, where he loses an open there versus a hand he beats instead of picking up the pot where I can't really call off 15 there with king queen offsuit. I don't think.
You guys were 15 and what, 19?
Maybe even a little shallower, something like that. 15, 17, 15, 18.
Yeah. Yeah. Good play here by Enrico. Got to fold as Ami.
Mm-hmm.
So we've seen Enrico kind of go into this like very selective. He really shifted a lot. Like he showed some chip leader. Yeah, this is standard fold. He showed certainly some understanding of how chip leaders play. And then as soon as he got into like the mid or shallow or stack,
So me finds this one though, ace 7
yeah.
off.
Yeah, I mean that one is a little different. And then yeah, that's
Close.
it is close when he shoves the button, yeah. Because he had what did he have there?
Let's go back and take a look. Looks like 2.7, 2.6. Playing 140. Calculator out here. I would say 17.
Yeah, that's pretty tough. I mean, Ami's going to be able to jam some.
Closer to 20, actually. Yeah. It's really like 19.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be really fringy for the big blind. I think, it starts getting very easy.
Ace 9 suited, easy.
We did see Ami fold the ace 4-0 though. So basically the way these things work and why there's so much guesswork is like if you know that there's some sort of jams creeping into a button strategy, typically the first ones are going to be like the low pairs, low suited aces, suited nines, suited tens, and suited broadways. And then as you get shallower, some offsuit ace X creep in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if I would be opening the tens here or the two. I think this is a fold.
Yeah.
You're not going to open twos into the covering stack and then two stacks that never go post flop where your low cards just increase the likelihood that they fold. I think your hand's probably fitting into a 3-bet fold.
Yeah, my thought with this deuces is that there's kind of two ideas at work. One, we have close to the chip lead, we want to be putting pressure on opening a lot, but now the stacks have shifted where it's not like Ami is a clear one. He's playing against a guy who covers him in the big blind, so not able to open as wide. That's kind of we want to open a lot here. The other idea, we have deuces, we have low cards. We hate these hands as RFIs in spots like this, playing against shallow stacks. Can't call reshoves, don't interact with the reshoving range. So negatives there on that front. So I think I would throw these deuces, threes, maybe even fours in the muck as well.
I think fours might be strong enough, and you're probably supposed to do something with fours. So they're doing all right. But yeah, I think twos is too loose.
Yeah. I'm not a big 3-bet fold guy there in that spot, as you see, so I'm all in.
I think you kind of need it.
Yeah, if you're gonna bake in bluffs, you really can't be playing only shove in that spot. So I mean, that's instructional to know that.
Were you button or cut off? Your button.
It's button versus cutoff. Yeah.
Yeah. See, this is too wide from Nicholas. This is something I said, in my opinion. I think this is something I said to keep an eye out for. If people take the button spot and go too wide here, I think this is supposed to be something like much more normal than opening queen 6 offsuit.
Yeah, and this is like kind of a subtle shift in stacks where now it's 8 million to 7.5 instead of 9 million, and Nicholas has 7.5, where wildly changes his button opening range. And I would guess I'm gonna be all in here. I mean, especially when Ami flats here, I think it's changes things a lot, and I'm gonna be all in. But probably would have played aggressively versus the open as well. Probably mixing some calls and shoves.
No, I would, especially if he has if he has these shifts, like if he has something, if he's supposed to be like 50% and then he dips 2 pips lower than 50%, here 50% should be like, ace 2, king 5, queen 8, just suited stuff, like going in towards 9, like so queen deuce suited, jack 3, 10, 4 type stuff, pocket 3. I don't even think he's supposed to open pocket 2s on the button here to put in perspective what Ami did on the cutoff last hand. So as soon as you shift to be 2 pips of offsuit hands lower, if Nicholas is going down to like every king and queen 6, then your whole, like it doesn't take adding too many offsuit combos for your big blind range just to start going crazy with shoves because you're just printing so hard. And then I do think like Ami found like probably pretty good flat there because they are close enough. Like Nicholas just covers by 5 blinds or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that flat makes a lot of sense. the reason it makes sense and he's able to execute it, I'm not sure if he will have that, but is because in this distribution, he's supposed to have a lot of really strong hands flatting too, like something like, some pocket tens probably,
Yeah.
some ace queen off, ace queen suited, king queen suited. So anytime you have that
That soft
range,
collusion kind of working with his small blind range where he doesn't
yeah,
want to play big pots against the guy in first.
yep. But for you, I think it makes a big difference whether we think he's going to have those traps or not, of course, because if his range is built the way it's supposed to be, I don't think you'd be shoving 20 blinds there over that because you kind of just don't really accomplish too much. When it gets back around to him, he's supposed to have some hands that just kind of snap you off. If you think he's going to be still kind of like too aggressive for value, like always three bet ace queen off or something, then your hand will quickly become a shove.
Yeah. And calling against that overcalling there, I guess, in the big blind, making some sense against Ami's small blind flatting range where I will have him dominated a good bit with him flatting these suited Broadway, like he had Jack 9 suited, but probably hands like Queen 10 suited, Queen Jack suited, King 10 suited, etc. will be in there that we interact well with.
I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be one of those spots where, like, if he's playing perfectly, it's going to be the difference. Going to be almost nothing based on what you do.
Mm-hmm. Hey guys, Darren Elias here to talk about my upswing training course, Road to Victory, which I spent the last 9 months creating with my longtime friend Nick Petrangelo. Really excited to walk you guys through what to expect in the course now that it's complete. And coming out on Monday, May 8th, I do want to say if you are interested in buying the course, that you should do so quickly, as anyone who buys the course in the first week will receive access to the bonus course for free. The bonus course being the Victory Vault, where Nick and I break down hands submitted by upswing users, other poker players, mid stakes, low stakes, online, live, really breaking down a wide array of hands, what we think about these hands that have been submitted. Nick and I talking strategy in a relaxed setting and blending our exploitative and theoretical approach in breaking down those hands. So do encourage anybody who's interested in Road to Victory to also look at the Victory Vault, as well as Nick and I work together there too. But to get into the main course, Road to Victory, I wanted to show you guys how this course is going to work. And after the introduction, it starts with my approach to the game in a mindset perspective and the different things I'm thinking about from a big picture idea when thinking about poker tournaments, who we're playing against, understanding our opponents, observation, how we make adjustments and inferences against who we're playing against, our table image, and really unpacking the idea of understanding our opponents and putting them into different player types or different baskets. And that's going to be a theme in the course where we build on that a lot, and getting into some more advanced concepts later, but definitely laying the foundation with this first section on how I approach the game and really assessing our opponents and what we want to bring to the table before we get into the next section, which is the exploitative ideas. And this is observations or collection of ideas that I've accumulated over the years of playing tournament poker, where I believe the population makes mistakes or doesn't respond correctly to certain plays, and how we can make money by exploiting that. So this is really a breakdown with a lot of hand examples of ideas that will come up throughout the course that are common themes in poker tournaments, and I've tried my best to identify triggers to when you're entering into these situations, what they look like, and what to do to win the most money when you are in these types of scenarios. So going through this exploitative section, very important early, and then getting into the actual tournament journey here. After the exploitative ideas, we go chronologically through the rest of the tournament, talking about the things we're going to see at different stages. So the early stage, intermediate stage, bubble, in the money, and then the final table. And along the way, we have these ranges. We have both equilibrium, quote unquote GTO, or computer generated ranges that we've hand tweaked, but we also have exploitative ranges, which I've created out of my experience and basically giving you guys the keys on how I play these unique spots we often see in poker tournaments against weaker players, and how we're going to continue in these unique scenarios, dealing with limpers, dealing with different size openings, additional information from live games, tells, sizing tells, a lot of exploitative stuff here. We'll get to see how we play differently against different player types in different situations. So these are really cool. A lot of pre-flop charts included in this course. Of course, those exploitative ones, and then we have these more theoretical equilibrium ranges, which are easy to navigate here with race first in scenarios, defending the big blind at all these different depths, facing an open, blind versus blind, squeeze, facing 3-bet, and this is a great little structure here, easy to navigate at the different depths. And wanted to point out that Nick and I did simplify these strategies a little bit, where we rounded off our frequencies, so they're either 25%, 50%, 75%, or 100. So there are none of these 8%, 2% raise, these really very low frequency plays, where I really thought it would be best to simplify the strategies, as it's very tough to execute accurately a complex mixed strategy with very low frequency plays. So that is why you'll see these kind of rounded off numbers here. Continuing on to the intermediate stages and getting out of the early stages where there is a lot of content. In the intermediate stages, talking about day 2, late day 1 in tournaments, and we actually have some hypotheticals where I show you how I would proceed in the same situation with the same hand against all different player types, and how their ranges are different from equilibrium, as you see here in this graphic, how our ranges will be different, how we'll proceed differently post-flop on the same board. So had a lot of fun working through these 5-way hypothetical scenarios, which we used a couple times in the course. And then moving on, once we get out of that into the bubble scenario, we have a soft bubble section, hard bubble. This one here showing another one of those hypotheticals where put ourselves in a similar spot with a similar hand, but different players behind us with different player types, chip distributions, really breaking down how we're going to adjust to what tournaments give us, what tables give us, and the ideas behind bubble play. We'll also talk with Nick about parallels with ICM and bubble play and what we want to be thinking about in general in these scenarios. Moving on through the bubble, we get to the in the money stage, where everyone wants to be in a tournament. So how I play in the money, how we proceed through the different in the money stages, the initial in the money phase, and then the deep in the money phase, and then near the final table, final 2 tables, shorthanded play, how ICM dynamics start to dictate play. And we'll really bring in Nick Petrangelo a lot on these sections, as he is one of the experts in the world, I'd say, on ICM play, and one of the most misunderstood topics in poker, I believe. So really happy to have him on with this. And as we get to the final table, one of my favorite sections of the course was making this 10K Super Millions final table review, where we went through every hand of a 10K major event online tournament here, which I actually won a couple years ago, and breaking down every single hand played by every player, talking about the strategy. Nick and I in here for somewhere around 4 hours, just talking it out. Really a lot to learn in this final table stream, and culminates with a heads up match where we do have some heads up content as well in this course. I believe in this match I end up heads up against Nicholas Asted here, had a long heads up match, and we have heads up charts also included in this course at 3 different depths, and really a little bit of focus on both the theoretical aspect of heads up poker with one big blind ante in a tournament game like we frequently reach, and also the exploitative side of heads up poker when we do happen to draw an opponent we have a big edge against at the end of a tournament, and how to proceed there. So really comprehensive course here, covered all our bases in the different stages of the tournament, the different ideas, exploitative, theoretical, early, late. I think this is definitely one of the more comprehensive courses I've ever seen put together, and I hope you guys are able to check it out.